Hey Warriors, this is Unit 15, Lesson 4. Here we're going to talk about prejudice and discrimination, which can be a topic that's a little bit difficult for Americans to discuss because we have a long history of prejudice and discrimination. But I believe that shining light on it can help improve our situation. Remember that we are spending this unit on social cognition. So these are errors in our thinking, and if we're aware of our errors, we are better prepared to make changes to those errors. So let's begin with stereotypes. Stereotypes are the perceptions, the beliefs, and the expectations that we have for members of a group of people. They're often unchanging. They're oversimplified and usually distorted, and we just flat out make mistakes about groups of people that we may not be exposed to very often. Remember that we use schemas. These are little mental shortcuts where we base our opinions based on the things that we know. And so if we are not exposed to many people who are different from us, we may have that oversimplified reaction when we see people. It saves us time, it saves us resources, but we adopt stereotypes that are just flat out mistaken. It's easier for us when we get to know people to form these impressions based on attributions, our attitudes, and sometimes they can lead to prejudice and discrimination. Just for example, so say you meet an older man and your schema, your stereotype about that older man is that they are sexist. Well, when we do that, we close ourselves off to the possibility that this man might be the wokest individual you ever met. So we have to be careful. We have to acknowledge stereotypes, try to avoid when they're more negative, and reverse our thinking. The negative side of stereotypes is that we do close ourselves off to that person, individual themselves, who may be more broad in their interests, their abilities, their talents. Maybe we don't get to know them because of this stereotype. The best I can tell you is stereotypes are real. They're primitive. They're from olden times to keep us tribal and to stick with people that are going to help us in the future. Be aware of it. It closes you off. And just be open to meeting new people and forming new opinions and new possibilities, because when you make these broad strokes about an entire group of people, you close yourself off, and that's the best I can say. Now I'm going to show you a picture of people who have stereotypes. You don't have to write anything down here, but there are statements that we might, originally come to mind when we're exposed to them. So take a look at that. Remember that stereotypes can be positive, they can be negative. Oversimplified, we may not be aware of them when they happen, so be aware. It could lead to prejudice. Let's talk about what that is. Prejudice is what we do when we decide beforehand whether a person is rich or poor. Instead, we're going to not withhold judgment. We're going to make that judgment right away. Prejudice suggests that we have a negative attitude towards others, and discrimination is the negative behaviors that we show towards others. So behavior, it's an overt act. It's unequal treatment towards members of a certain group. It's possible to be prejudiced and not discriminate. A person may be prejudiced and not act on it. They don't have the behaviors. But when the behaviors exist, it becomes discrimination. And so having signs that prevent people from entry is discriminatory. Discrimination can happen because of social and economic pressures, and it arises in situations where one group may want power over the other. Discrimination is based on stereotypes and prejudice, and usually involves mistreatment or denying people certain rights and privileges because they're a member of a certain group. Now, naturally, if we do know about these stereotypes and prejudice, we might think about where does this come from? So you might wonder where prejudice, discrimination, where it introduces us to discrimination. Well, up to 70 years ago, and even longer, people were theorizing about this, and one theory is motivation, that people who are prejudiced feel threatened by certain groups, and then this might enhance their security, that is, discriminatory practices, makes them feel more safe and secure, and help them meet their needs and demands. This was a theory proposed by Adorno. The motivational theory is based on one that's called authoritarianism. Now, authoritarianism is comprised of these three components, these three characteristics. One, they believe in traditional values, that family should come first, respect for authority, hard work, and cooperation with others. This attitude and belief in traditional values has been passed on through the generations. Second, we follow the authority figure without question because that authority figure is looking out for the best of the group, pressing the other people down. Parents, bosses, police, we do what we're told. And three, acts of aggression towards the identified people that are in charge feel that as threatening. And then they elevate themselves while threatening the people that are below. Now, people that are believing in the authoritarian system have similar orientations and believe that they are always being threatened. The world is a dark and evil place. And so one way to protect themselves is to have this perceived threat, identify them, suggest that they are the enemy. When you're a member of the in-group, the party in control, the out-group is what is the threat. And so in order to make us feel safe and secure, we have to keep the out-group at way shoulder's length. And throughout American history, that has been marginalized on persons of color, black and brown folks, gay, lesbian, transgender is popular today. So these are convenient targets for authoritarianism. Now, this thing down on the right, you don't have to write this down, but authoritarians will answer yes to these statements. If they are authoritarian minded, they're going to say yes to. People can be divided into two distinct classes, the weak and the strong. An insult should always be punished. We should take offense at insults. And every person should have complete faith in a supernatural being whose decisions he obeys without question. Here we flip our focus on the motivational theories to social identity. And that's kind of the same feeling that if I'm a member of the in-group, my social identity is I am a member of the party in power. And so a person whose sense of self-identity is based on group membership, they're going to stick with those beliefs. Let me give you some examples here. Where it's happened throughout history, you have the German Jews and the Nazis, you have the Democrats and Republicans in American history, we have Carolina Panthers versus the Atlanta Falcons, yuck, the males versus females in social classes, the middle class is getting set to eat the rich right now. Here's the bottom line. The in-group is going to do, they're the party in control, and they're going to do what it takes to keep the out-group diminished. Social identity is a large part of the prejudice and discrimination that the in-group are going to have against the out-group. We're all talking about cognition. So a cognitive theorist may say that we use our schemas to interpret the world. And I agree with that 100%. We go through this world knowing what we know about people, and it shapes our first opinions. We categorize people and assume that all members are the same. Physical characteristics, I make assumptions about based on the things that I know. So if I heard a story recently about somebody in the news, I use that the next time I meet that somebody who belongs to the group. I'll show you a video in class which demonstrates the way that we think about a person who is shaped by the media. Furthermore, we learn stereotypes from watching TV and the media. We also learn it from our families. We learn prejudice from watching our parents and others. Maybe mom and dad tell a joke about a certain group of people. People and kids can be reinforced by parents and others. And let me show you some stats that are just amazing. Now, I don't know if these stats are current for 2025, but take a look at 1996, the things that we were seeing on TV and movies. The black female characters shown using profanities far more than those white female characters. Is this an accurate reflection of what the world is today? Well, no, not in my opinion, it isn't. But I walk through this world with an open mind. I sure hope this isn't reality. And so it makes me a little sad for those black females that are being portrayed in this way. And I pray that they're no longer being portrayed that way. If this is something that concerns you, what can you do about it? Be aware of your attributes, your attitudes, your schemas, your prejudice, and do not discriminate. When we're aware of these things, guys, we have the power to change more than just ourselves. We can share these ideas with others. When we meet someone that may look different from us, let's get to know them. Let's open our hearts and our minds and maybe learn more about their culture, their beliefs, their values, and find that we have more in common with those people than we have different. That's all. Thanks.